is the face of your ministry. I want you to start thinking about how great you can make your weekend services, so that it becomes an encounter for people. It becomes one of those powerful experiences. Now, let's imagine you've only got one weekend service in a weekend. Many of us have a lot more, but just say you only had one. That's 90 minutes in a whole week to make an impact in people's lives. It's the only service that most churches raise finances, tithes and offerings. Imagine, and say your average income was, say it's like $500,000 a year, for argument's sake. Imagine if you went to a businessman and said, you've got to run a $500,000 budget a year, and you can only trade for 90 minutes a week. You can only open your store for 90 minutes a week. What then would that retailer think in terms of how good would you make that 90 minutes? Well, that's how we've got to think. You've got to think, no, I've got 90 minutes to achieve pretty well all the face of the ministry in people's lives. So now suddenly that 90 minutes becomes a lot more important. How much focus, energy. So we've got a staff of 150. I run a weekend services meeting for an hour every Tuesday, and we focus, and we've got some of the best people. We have our music people, our media people, our production people, our college people, our all sorts of people. We have them in this meeting, and we brainstorm, we debrief from the weekend before, and we plan for the next week and for the next few weeks coming. And we really focus in our attention and get it right down to the detail of the whole thing. Do we get everything right? No, we make mistakes every weekend. So on my iPad here, I have all sorts of categories within my notes, and one of them is weekend services, and through every service I'm writing down, we need to shift that, we need to change that, we need to adjust that, we need to talk to that person about that, and I go into that meeting with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, unfortunately sometimes 20 points, and then we debrief, but the whole team is doing that as well, and really focusing in on trying to get everything. Now remember, a lot of what you need to achieve in those sort of meetings is not creating new things, but removing barriers. Removing barriers. Our main job in meetings is to remove distractions. I want the ministry as the most important thing. I want worship and atmosphere in worship and preaching and the atmosphere of preaching as the most important things. But you'll find if you look in services, and if you look in your buildings, we'll get onto a few details in a second, there are a lot of distractions going on and stuff that are actually pulling away from it. So if the media doesn't work, and the lights go, and this doesn't work, and that's thing, and the pulpit's grubby, and the thing, people, they're all tiny things, but they all add up to distractions. That's what it is. It's not about sort of like we need perfection. It's not about perfection. It's about removing distractions. And the way people are dressed on stage, the way they behave on stage, if they are drawing attention to themselves, are really creating a distraction from the things that really, really count. So a lot of it's about distraction. Okay, so I want you to imagine you've got 90 minutes a week to really make and give people an encounter with God, and to make it a life-changing, world-class encounter. By the way, the world know this better than the church. We have friends in New York, and he's